again, Bill Jones, recapturefederalism.com, recapturefederalism.com on the net, on YouTube, Google. Being expressed by Google, YouTube, that whole organization out there in the tech center, which is left-wing commie bastards out there, California mostly, Washington State, West Coast, left coast, yeah. And so we need some help there. I think we ought to just devalue their stock, have them go out of business, have them devalue their stock. I think I'll sue them. Violation of my constitutional rights, free speech. Because you can't be controlling the internet like they do. Now, first of all, got to go to my oath. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. I first took that oath in July 1965 when I joined the United States Navy. The enemy then was communism, as the enemy is now communism. And what's the topic for today, Bill? Well, the topic for today is President Trump, Part 16, Notice of Treason, Religious Persecution. Yeah, religious persecution. I see on this, I'm doing this President's Day, the 20th. On Saturday, the president had a campaign, officially a campaign stop in Melbourne, Florida. And he had his wife. She comes up, introduced. She does the Lord's Prayer, exercising her religious freedom. She's a Christian. She's exercising her right as a Christian, saying the Lord's Prayer. And you have people criticizing her, mercifully criticizing her. And they say separation of church and state. Well, wait a minute. It's a campaign meeting, a campaign gathering. It's not officially the president in an official presidential talk. It's a campaign talk. But this is the communist, Democrats, communist. In 1848 in Europe, they had, that's the same year as the Communist Manifesto, they had demands. And one of the demands was of Germany, separation of church and state. I'm going to read from the Communist Manifesto and the Confession of Faith, the Communist Confession of Faith. Communism is a religion, and it's become the state religion here. It's become the state religion because you have in 1947, this century, or this past century, they had a Supreme Court ruling, separation of church and state. Well, that's treason. That's treason. That's establishing atheism as a state religion. Communism as a state religion. Socialism, a state religion. Statism, a state religion. And Congress should have impeached the Supreme Court justices. They ought to be impeaching them, all these justices. They're party hacks. They're party hacks. Now, from page 26 of the Communist Manifesto, but communism abolishes eternal truth and abolishes all religion and all morality. What, Bill? Yeah. Communism abolishes all eternal truth, all religion, and all morality. Wow. And then page 34 of the Communist Manifesto. That's why I read this every time I do it. I'm come up on 200 of presentations on YouTube. Still only 72 subscribers. I got 3 times more stuff on YouTube than I've got subscribers. How does that happen? Oh, I'm suppressed. That's right. Finally, they labor, from page 34 of the Communist Manifesto. Finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of democratic parties of all countries. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all social conditions. That the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite. And that's part of the unions. Are part of religious persecution. They put unions ahead of God by law. Wagner Act, FDR. I'm going to be doing another presentation here about FDR being a communist. Unions. Commanding the sin. I'm going to be reading some of that too. Forcibly overthrow of all existing social conditions, let the ruling classes tremble. They're terrorists at the communist revolution. Oh yeah. Now, I'm going to read this from George Washington's farewell address. George Washington's farewell address. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all departments in one, and thus to create whatever the form of government, a real despotism. That's what you have when you have party supremacy, and that's what we have 220 years ago. Party supremacy in this country. And developing it into atheistic, Engels and Marx both atheist, atheistic, communistic, party supremacy. If in the opinion of, why did this happen? Well, I'm going to tell you how it happens. If in the opinion of people, the distribution or modification of the constitutional powers be in a particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in the way which the Constitution designates. But, okay, amendment. You want party to run stuff, you need an amendment to the Constitution. No amendment to the Constitution. Parties are not mentioned in it. Political parties are not mentioned. They cannot govern legally. But they are, Bill. They are. Yeah. And this is how they did it. But let there be no change by usurpation, for through this, in one instance, may be an instrument of good. It is customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. United States is a free government by authority of God, Romans 13. Romans 13. Probably won't be reading that today, but it's Romans 13. 2,000 years ago. Government by authority of God. Okay? Now, Augsburg Confession. I'm Lutheran. Confession of Faith. Augsburg Confession of Faith is the Lutheran Church's confession of faith. It's also a confession of faith for all Christians, one of them. And They're involved in political stuff. They're allowed in political stuff. Yeah. 1530. Martin Luther and the other reformers came out with Augsburg Confession. 1530. 500 some years ago. Article 16 of the Augsburg Confession of Civil Affairs, and this is how they describe the church and Christians' relationship with government. Yeah. Long before the Communist Manifesto. Long before John Adams and the political parties in the United States. Okay? Of civil affairs, they teach the lawful civil ordinances are good works of God, and that it is the right of Christians to bear civil office, to sit as judges, to judge matters by imperial or existing laws, to award just punishments, to engage in just wars, to serve as soldiers, to make legal contracts, to hold property, to make oath when required by magistrates, to marry a wife, to be given in marriage. No same-sex marriage here. And so when the judges, federal judges, order the Lutheran Church like they did, it's in the case in federal judge in Montana or Idaho was out there, ordered the Lutheran Church. They have to marry two gays. Two gays. Against their church requirements. Against their church requirements. That's interfering in the churches. Separation of church and state? No. This is where the supremacy by the Communist Party, Democratic Party, and their judges are interfering and forcing the disappearance of the Christian church. Disappearance bill. Yeah, disappearance. I'm going to get into that too. Further reading from 1530, Civil Affairs, Augsburg Confession. They condemn also those who do not place evangelical perfection in the fear of God and in faith. But in forsaking civil offices, the gospel teaches an eternal righteousness of the heart. Meanwhile, it does not destroy the state or the family, which very much requires that they be preserved as ordinances of God, and that charity be practiced in such ordinances. Therefore, Christians are necessarily bound to obey their own magistrates and laws, save only when commanded to sin, for they ought to obey God rather than men. Acts 5:29. That's in the Bible. Acts 5:29. Acts 5:29. God comes before man's laws. If there's any discrepancy, you go to revert back to God's law. So laws have to be in accordance with Christians, and Jews I might add too. People who believe in God and the Ten Commandments. That's the basis of our legal system, is the Ten Commandments. And if it's a law contrary to God's law, you don't have to abide by it. And shouldn't be ruled, but shouldn't be forced to. Shouldn't be forced to. 1847, Frederick Engels came up with the Communist Confession of Faith. Communism is a religion. Progressivism is a religion. It's communism. So socialism, it's communism. All of them. Statism. Yeah, statism. So it was like a catechism. Communist catechism. Question and answers. Question 22. Do communists reject existing religions? They don't have a simple answer, yes or no. They come out with this. But the answer is yes, they do reject religions. The answer, all religions which have existed heretofore were expressions of historical stages of development of individual peoples or groups of peoples. But communism, that stage of historical development which makes all existing religion superfluous and supersedes them. So when the communists, the Democratic Party, and those supporting the Democratic Party say separation of church and state, that's what they say. Religion, get out of here, get out of here. All religions, not just Christianity, all religions. Get out of here. We're superseding them. We are supremacy over all religions. That violates the Constitution of the United States, doesn't it? Free exercise. It also establishes and allows to establish, judges are making rulings, allowing the establishment of atheism as a state religion. Communism. Then you go to in 1848, the principles of communism came out with the Communist Manifesto. Engels and Marx worked on them. And questions and answers. Question 23 in the Communist Manifesto, Principles of Communism. What is the attitude to existing religions? All religions so far have been expression of historical stages of development of individual peoples or groups of peoples. But communism is a stage of historical development which makes all existing religions superfluous and brings about their disappearance. Their disappearance. Disappearance. Disappearance, it means you don't have any religious rights or freedoms because of party supremacy. And what did we say about it? What did George Washington say about it? What did he say about it? He says that three branches of government have become one. The party rules, party supremacy. Yeah, and that's what's happened. That's what's happened. You have, treason, it's all treason. On January 25th, I sent a notice of treason to John Roberts of the Supreme Court. No response. He cannot respond and deny treason is occurring. His actions of his court for the last 150 years or more have been treasonous. Has been treasonous or resulted in treason. In the case of income tax, 16th Amendment, which is a treasonable act, because they ruled that income tax was unconstitutional. So the two parties, party supremacy, came up with a communist 16th Amendment. Communist 16th Amendment. So what we have to get the government to act. Get the federal government to act. Get the state governments to act. Every state has treason and within their constitution or in their codification. I plead with all the citizens, all the patriots, all the people who voted for Trump, all the people who don't belong to political parties. I beg of you, I beseech you to go to your county sheriffs and file charges against them. Treason. They're bound by the constitutions of their state and the federal constitution to act. But I'm a lone wolf out here all by myself. I need help. Also, you might want to maybe get a listing of all the telephone books, all your lawyers in the area, and go to the body which the bar which regulates the lawyers and get them all disbarred. Because they're all trained in this. No lawyers say anything. They all should be disbarred. Shakespeare had it right, all shall all be died. Shall all be dead. Every one of them. And with that, I'm going to be going for today. And we'll be back here tomorrow, maybe.